You do 15-hour days, straddled across 3 of the most important ministries in this government. And so first of all, kudos to you for all the hard work. I think that fact that you find time for us is a big thing for us. So I want to first have a round of applause for you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's truly, truly remarkable. So may I start by just asking you a personal question, Mr. Vaishnav, before we go to the brass tacks. How is this shift to a political role? And as I was asking you just before this event, today do you see yourself as a politician, a technocrat? How would you define yourself in this role that you're doing? And personally, how has this transition been for you?
If we look at what politics of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is, he has redefined politics. For him, politics is making a transformational change in people's lives, especially people at the bottom of the pyramid. If you take that as the definition of politics, yes, I am very comfortable being that. Absolutely no difference in what one would have done as a bureaucrat, as somebody who's trying to make a difference in people's lives in the districts, in field level, and now at a much larger level. I don't see any friction in this shift.
So we'll go through all the policy questions now because a lot of headlines will be made from everything that you say, and I hope you open up. How is the faster rollout of 5G made possible? Were you working on deadlines? Are you overcommitting on deadlines? Are you sure of delivery?
See, industry was expecting that normally after the spectrum auctions, it takes generally a few months for the spectrum to be physically allocated, letters to be done, the harmonization of all the frequencies which has to be done. It takes generally earliest possible is a few months. It actually happened in one day. It's
amazing. So, I thought it was about 2 weeks since the letters of allotment were issued and all happened within 2 weeks of the auctions, but you're telling me it happened in a day? What's the inside story?
2 weeks is basically the time which is given to the telecom service providers to make the payments. As soon as the payment was done, I think the payment was done on the evening of, I don't remember the date now, within 24 hours of that, the spectrum letters were out.
So why these sharp deadlines?
We have a leadership which believes in performance, which believes in delivery, which believes in making sure that whatever people's aspirations are, those aspirations are met with full vigor, full force, full commitment, and that's what all of us are trying to do in today's
And what will 5G mean for India's Atmanirbhar journey?
A lot will change. If you look at the global experience, the most fundamental change which happens when 5G gets launched and 5G gets utilized is the change in the healthcare sector. That's the most fundamental. In terms of globally, the number one change which happens, that change is in healthcare sector. The second change which happens is in education sector. Third is in the logistics and industrial sectors. So the same phenomenon will be repeated here. We will see massive transformation in healthcare. What used to be a difficult dream for a person living in remote areas to be able to access good consultation with somebody sitting in a good world-class hospital in a big city, those things will become realities. Telemedicine, what we used to think during the satellite era and all those things, is going to get totally transformed. It will be like the way we are sitting together today. A patient and a doctor, a patient sitting in remote areas of Odisha can have exactly the same consultation with a doctor sitting in Bangalore or Mumbai.
Will you open up on the China angle, please? Because, there it is, I'm happy with it, to be very honest. But I want to know your thinking. You took a decision, the government took a decision, we will restrict the import of 5G equipment from China. I mean, I could give you a huge round of applause for that, but I want to know why. I know it's great, we will be the first country to use indigenous 5G, which is fantastic, isn't it? Completely indigenous 5G in the country. But I want to know, isn't it great, Mohan? Fantastic, indigenous 5G. But why did you take a decision to keep China out?
I'll be very candid on this.
Please.
And would like to explain the entire thought process. There are certain technologies which every aspiring nation should try and master. That doesn't mean that we shut ourselves out from the world. The idea is our engineers, our technicians, our people are among the best in the world. They are doing the best developments for the whole world. If we have a clear strategic vision and take a conscious call that we will develop certain technologies, come what may, we can achieve it. I'll give 2 examples of this. First is the 5G stack. End to end, if you look at the entire technology spectrum, there are only 5 countries in the world which have the complete end-to-end 5G technology stack. And now we are joining that club as the 6th country. It's not an easy task. What was important is Prime Minister had complete faith and complete commitment in our ability to deliver. No other leader would have given that kind of clarity of thought, clarity of purpose, which PM Modi has given. We could have kind of fluctuated saying that no, people are demanding 5G and we are not able to provide 5G today. Some countries have already gone ahead. We could have thought that no, let's import and let's go forward. No. He was very, very clear on this and that helped. I'll give the second example, the example of Vande Bharat train. There are only about 8 countries in the world which have developed a train which can run at 180 kilometers per hour. We are the 9th country to do so, and again the goal which PM said that we must have a world-class train for our own people. The thought process within the system was that go out, import from Germany, import from France, import from Japan. But PM said no. He clearly said no. He clearly said no. It has to be developed by our own engineers. Again, it's that thought process of becoming technological leader, having that confidence in our ability to do, having that confidence in our engineers' ability to develop. That's what is making this big difference.
I think that political conviction was not there earlier.
If you go back, I can give you 100 examples. You take any particular technology, you take any particular sector, take the defense equipment, right? Where was the political commitment to try and develop our own guns? Where was the political, even things as simple as a rifle, right? The thought process, I'll tell you what has changed. The thought process was go out, scout for a technology, have a technology transfer agreement, and then live with that technology for next 30, 40 years. That thought process has changed. The thought process is make in India, design in India, wherever possible, indigenize as much as possible, bring the entire supply chain into India. That's the thought process. That's a very big difference.
Now I also know you're a politician because you avoided my China question. The minister thinks I'm trying to get him into Mr. Jaishankar's realm. But I'm curious. I greatly appreciate it. I totally agree with you. I mean, if you look at, I'm going beyond your ministry. I remember way back when I was a reporter, I did a story on a massive public sector undertaking in our country which was working in the field of drugs and pharmaceuticals. And as part of the story, I spoke about the retrenchment of hundreds of employees in that organization. And when I went around, when I met the scientists from the organization, I remember I was in my 20s, and they told me that, Arnab, we are capable of beating the Chinese. These basic drugs, which have suddenly become our biggest imports after the opening of the Indian economy, If we just had 6 months to 1 year to catch up, we could have done it. But we rather chose a Chinese substitute. My direct question to you, Mr. Minister, please answer it. It would have, some people would have said, let's scale it up fast, let's import the technology. We will play catch up later. But your government didn't do that. So is there a risk factor that you think about when you're sitting in the government, when you're talking to the Prime Minister? Do these conversations happen, or is it and do you also think of the diplomatic fallout of taking tough decisions like this?
Very clear commitment towards developing technologies, very clear focus on where we want to go. That's what most of these reviews which PM takes in our ministries, at least 3 ministries which I hold the responsibility for. Very, very clear decisions. See, the question is, if we want shortcuts, if we want band-aids, if we want things which are going to be good for today, that's possible to do, anybody can do. But if we are aiming at taking ourselves to a developed nation status by 2047, then shortcuts won't work.
Completely agree with you. You completely skirted the China question. I will get Mr. Jaishankar and answer that. But I got your point, and I think we greatly appreciate the belief that the government has in our own expertise. I want to know, last question on this, on your present IT Telecom ministry. 5G is projected to be 100 times faster than 4G. 6G, they say, no, 6G will be 100 times faster than 5G. And one day there will be 7G. Are we getting lost in words? What is the future looking like to you? I want to know what is the impact of all this speed for the average Indian. What does the future look like to you, and how will we benefit? How will everyone benefit? If you can, in basic terms, explain that.
If you look at very basically, how's this whole technology picture getting evolved, right? 3 things are happening. First, the cost of compute is reducing dramatically. The compute power is increasing inversely to the cost of compute. Second, the cost of communication is reducing dramatically, whereas the communication power is again increasing significantly. Third is the cost of sensors is reducing phenomenally, like it's almost like 17% CAGR. And the number of sensors which are available with a very small footprint, they are increasing dramatically. The convergence of these 3 factors is changing practically everything that we see. There are examples of using 5G where exactly as per the water requirement of a plant, you can give exactly the exact number of drops that have to be given to that particular plant, you can do that. So those are the changes which are happening. How the world will look, I would like to again put it in the context of what we are thinking. We as government are thinking, we as the team of Prime Minister Modi is thinking. After almost 30-40 years, first time in the International Telecommunications Union, first time India's IP rights was recognized, included as a part of the standards, and today the 5G standards has India's IP rights incorporated in for the first time. It's not a small feat because the entire telecom industry is kind of controlled by 4 or 5 big players, and those 4 or 5 big players will never let anybody have a seat at the table. First time we were able to snatch, we were able to make our presence felt. Now in 6G, Prime Minister has given us the lead that we have to be the leader. He has given us that target. And already we have invested significant amounts of time and resource and funds in getting the 6G developments in place. Already we have more than 15 patents. We have more than 15 patents for 6G technology. Our teams are today called for all the major discussions. We have a clear roadmap laid out for taking the lead. Now the lead is not just in rolling out, Arnab. The lead is in technology. The lead is in making sure that we are the technology leaders in 6G. It's not just rolling out. It's very, very important. Today we have 35 manufacturers of telecom equipments. We have 5 manufacturers, designers of good quality radios, which is the most critical equipment. We have our entire core network developed by 2 entities in the country, one a government entity, one a private entity. You cannot imagine the power it puts in the hands of our country. See, if you don't have your own core, somebody can just put a pipe in there, and whatever things you try to do on your phone or on your machine, on your computer, the network itself is leaking to somebody else, right? Having our core is of strategic importance. Having our radio networks is of strategic importance. So those are the things on which we are making significant progress.
So you're already thinking of 6G?
Yes, of course.
And you are thinking of the applications of 6G?
Absolutely.
And you are talking to those, even private sector or research, who will be putting out those applications of 6G so that you can execute it fast?
The model that we are taking is, our youngsters have huge amount of energy, huge amount of innovative spirit. We are taking the 5G use case, 5G laboratories to about 100 universities across the country. Just what we are doing in semiconductor, exactly that same phenomenon we are taking into 5G also, 5G and 6G too, 5G and beyond is what we are calling it. So we set up a lab in the remote areas of Jharkhand, everywhere in the country. Practically each and every state will get 2 or 3 labs. That way the students are able to think of new solutions, new use cases. They are able to look at how 5G can impact their own lives, how 5G can make a difference in the people around them. So that's the way we are moving.
What is your timeline for 6G?
6G is around 28, 29 is what the world is.
Around 2028, 29?
Yeah.
And you're preparing for 6G?
Absolutely.
So India makes the transition to 6G by 28, 29.
And I also want to share another very important information with you. We recently had the elections of International Telecommunication Union.
Yes.
Indian candidate Ms. Revati, she won with record margin. I think out of the 170 odd members of the ITU, we got 130 votes. So the world is recognizing that India is emerging as a technological superpower. It is not just a country which develops for the world. It is a country which can do, which is doing for its own also. And actually, in the G20, I want to share with you.
Yeah.
In the G20 group of ministers, at least 8 ministers told me that we are waiting for your 5G to be rolled out so that we remove our dependence on the country that you named. And
the country that I named. All right. Mr. Vaishnav, I am now beginning to enjoy this. Yes. Go ahead.
They wanted India to come out and say that yes, our 5G has been rolled out now and we would like to use the 5G from India.
The country that I named is probably going to be looking at this headline coming out of this event, that India commits to the implementation and execution of 6G by 28, 29. The country that I named, which is frightened at our growth prospects, will now have a nervous breakdown listening to what you said this morning. But I think this is getting frighteningly exciting for us. Mr. Vaishnav, this is wonderful. I mean, if you think about this, we are thinking of the execution of 6G, and what a way to start this morning. How affordable is this going to be? How affordable, I think about, because you got to increase the base of 5G and 6G. Do you think about it? Because it has to reach the people.
As per ITU's affordability index, India is the most affordable telecoms industry in the world, whole world. That trend is going to continue.
So the most affordable, largest base, fastest implementation. Wow. You have your job set out. This is remarkable. A link to that, semiconductors. You alluded to it. Now my question is, how is the government planning to achieve the target of the semiconductor industry amidst a massive global shortage? Just expand on it a little bit, Mr. Vaishnav, because you say that within the next 5 to 6 years, you're talking of 28, 29, as we move towards 6G, we will also become a great semiconductor design capital in the world. Right? We have a 76 billion semiconductor industry at present. How does the government go about achieving this target, and how crucial is it, Mr. Vaishnav, to achieve the target when there is a massive global semiconductor shortage? Do you have any innovative ways, Swadeshi ways to achieve that?
Okay, so bit of context. 10 years back, what was electronics manufacturing industry in India? Practically negligible. What is electronics manufacturing industry in India today and where it is going? Today it is already at $80 billion US. It is growing at 17 to 19% CAGR. It is likely to cross $300 billion in the coming 5 years. Now, what's the most important raw material for electronics manufacturing? Most of the stuff that we see around today has electronics in it, and every electronics has semiconductor in it. Semiconductor is one of the most strategic item today. If we look at the global world, that's the most important item. The country definitely deserves to be the economic powerhouse. It has to have semiconductor industry. Now, that's one part of the story. The second part of the whole thing is, we have close to 50,000 semiconductor design engineers in our country, working for all the best companies in the world. That's the second part. Now, third part, globally, if you look at this semiconductor industry, 20% of the global semiconductor workforce, especially at the higher ends, is all Indians. Now, you put all these things together and you can definitely come up with a solution by which India becomes a powerhouse in semiconductor industry. It's not an easy task. It's going to be a long and arduous journey. It's going to be a very, very difficult journey. It's going to be a journey which will really test our patience, will really test our execution capabilities. It's not an easy thing to have even one fab in a country. It's a very, very difficult journey. We are cognizant of that. I want to tell you, when we went to the Prime Minister for review of what we want to do in semiconductor, we sought 45 minutes. He gave us 2 hours and 45 minutes.
And what was his essential line of questioning to you? What was the Prime Minister's central line of questioning to you in that meeting?
Each and every detail in this, he wanted to ask how you are going to execute this. What will be the implications? Where can we fail? So those are the things that he went in good details, because everybody knows that it's very easy to say that yes, we want semiconductors, but how many countries are actually able to deliver on it? So the thought process was that we must design our entire program in such meticulous detail that we should understand what are the failure points and we should be able to mitigate those risks right up front.
So you're saying the Prime Minister does this kind of deep SWOT analysis with you?
At least in every major thing, in railways, in telecom, in semiconductor, in 5G spectrum auction. I know that in BSNL revival, the meeting went on for almost 2.5 hours.
What is the weakness that you identified for the Prime Minister when he, as you said, he questions and challenges the assumptions which you're making, and he asks for what the challenges would be? In the semiconductor SWOT analysis, what was the weakness you probably identified, or the threat? If you don't mind sharing a little bit of that detail. I mean, I'm sure the country that we have named this morning is also listening very closely to you. You don't want to give away state secrets on this platform, but what is the weakness that you possibly identified?
There are, if you ask me, 4 or 5 major challenges, and we are cognizant of each one of those challenges. See, again, I'll give an example, another example. When India wanted to start the automobile industry, did the Ford or Volkswagen or Toyota come to India? No. Did the top names come to India? No. Who came to India? Somebody who had more hunger, somebody who had some willingness to take the risk and go forward, right? That kind of company came.
Correct.
That is exactly the same phenomenon we'll see in the semiconductor industry in India. We probably initially will get some of the players who are more risk-taking, may not have that kind of capability. So we have to balance that out. That's a big challenge we have to face. How do we face that challenge? We have tied up with some of the best laboratories in the world. There's a laboratory in Belgium, IMEC. I personally visited them and requested them that we are a country which is starting on this journey and we need your support. They promised us full support and they implemented their promise very rapidly in the entire process. That's the first challenge we have to face. Second challenge we have to face is bringing the ecosystem.
Correct.
Now this is a very, very complex ecosystem with very specialized gases, very, very rare and very specialized chemicals.
Yes.
And everything has to fall in place exactly just in time. It cannot be that you can store some of these things and you can use it over a period, right? So we are cognizant of that. We have contacted each and every supplier in the world. Each and every supplier in the world has committed to us that yes, you decide one place where 3 or 4 fabs can be set up over a period of 5, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. Then we come and we set up our entire base there. I'm very candidly sharing these things.
Yeah, please.
Because it's not that, I don't want to tell you that everything is hunky-dory, it's a very easy journey. It's not an easy journey.
No,
it's a very difficult journey. It's a journey where so many countries have floundered, they have failed, and we don't want to fail, we want to succeed, and if we want to succeed, then we have to prepare for it. We cannot just go in with blind eyes, right?
Yeah.
That's the second big challenge. The third big challenge will be on lots and lots of crossfire over who owns the IP.
Yeah.
So in semiconductor industry, there is always an IP created up to a point and you take that IP and beyond that you build over it.
Yes.
So that requires very strong legal structures, very strong contracts, very strong agreements. So we are cognizant of that. And we have created a team where some of the best in the world are today advising us. People like Vinod Dham,
yes,
who invented Pentium, right?
Yes.
People like Professor Rao from Georgia Tech, people like Professor Paul from Stanford. They are the ones who are advising us, they are the ones who are guiding us at every step. So it's a journey where today best of the best minds have already joined this journey. They are supporting us and they are the ones with whose help we are moving forward. It's going to be difficult, but we will achieve.
What is coming across to me as I listen to you is that what the government is providing, and I'm also looking at this from a macro perspective, what the government is providing to external stakeholders, to the private sector, to people who provide the R&D base, and people who will invest in India and work collaboratively with you. I think the remarkable thing is that this government is providing clarity to all those external stakeholders in the policy direction and stability of your government. And I think without that, it's not possible to do it. I think for the first time, do you feel sometimes, Mr. Minister, that when you talk to all of these external stakeholders, multiple companies, that they find this approach refreshing? Because I am looking at you as a very committed and sincere man. The sincerity is really coming across very clearly. But it's important to provide clarity, I mean, to a number of, it's a labyrinth of people who will work with you to provide stability to the semiconductor dream. Again, I'm asking you an approach question. Is this approach new?
See, this approach is...
And refreshing.
This approach is very refreshing and the commitment from our leadership is so clear that it helps us navigate the waters very, very clearly. See, again, without taking any names, a very large company which has turnover more than $100 billion, the chairman of that company made a statement that India has changed. When he visited India after 15 years, he visited. Yes. He didn't visit for a very long period.
Yes.
And he was so surprised by the candidness, by the freshness, by the sincerity of the approach, and he met Prime Minister. The meeting went on for almost an hour and 15 minutes. Yeah. It was like,
yeah,
it was a totally different experience for him because which Prime Minister in the world is willing to give that kind of time and energy and support for developing a very good long-term future for the country?
Yeah. No, I think this clarity is so important. And I also appreciate the candor and depth with which you are sharing details this morning. Mr. Minister, let me tell you, as a journalist over 10, 20 years, I've seen symbolic statements by ministers who come to events like these, make their 5-minute speech, and then, leave. I think it's amazing that you have a minister heading 3 significant portfolios who is going into this level of detail in a public forum like this. I really appreciate it. Mr. Minister, if I can extend the time a little bit and ask you a few more questions. We are all invested in the digital economy of this country. What does the future hold for digital India? We're going to go into a $1 trillion economy by 2030, not 800 billion, I think be trillion. In this scenario, a new version, and as much as you can share, of the data protection bill is presently underway. It's in the works. If you can share, what are some of the key details or what are the key changes that the government plans on bringing about in this aspect, and what effect will it have on India's digital economy? As much detail as you can provide at this stage about the data protection bill.
5, 6 questions in one question. That's Arnab.
As much as you can share. I want to draw you out this morning. I want to draw you out since you appear to be in the mood to share generously, please.
Okay, so we have actually entered a totally new world, totally new economic phase. The industrial phase is over or getting over. The digital phase is what we have entered in as the entire world, not just India. India has made much bigger progress compared to many other countries in the way digital has been rolled out. Now, can we have a legal framework of the previous century for this century and for the coming decades? No, we cannot have. So, how do we approach this? Time's up.
No, that's all right. I'm extending the time. We are at ease, please.
Okay,
please.
So our approach has been look at a very comprehensive framework starting with the entry point, which is telecom. Second, a very important point which concerns the entire IT industry, which concerns every citizen, that is privacy. Third, there were many structures of the age when internet had just begun the journey, which had just entered. Many of those structures need to be totally revamped. Things have changed, internet use has changed, the way internet is used has changed, the way internet is governed has changed. All those structures we need to change. So these are the 3 big pieces of legislation. First big piece is the Telecom Bill. In a very consultative process, we first uploaded a consultation paper. Basis the inputs, we published a draft Telecom Bill, and that draft Telecom Bill has been uploaded for consultation, and we have received fantastic, excellent feedback. In fact, one of the magazines, again I won't take a name, pardon me for that, but that magazine generally criticizes our government. In their editorial they wrote that this is the best draft of any bill they have seen, because the language is very clear, language is very simple, very straightforward, there are no cross connections anywhere. Hundreds of illustrations are given so that the point is clearly defined. Wherever possible, the definitions are within the context of the section so that people can understand. PM has given us a framework. He says that law saral honi chahiye. So saral has a full name. So basically the whole thing is that it has to be a very clearly, easily understandable framework. Laws are made for the people. People should be able to understand it. The same philosophy we are putting in the data protection bill. Again, we are drawing from the experience of what Europe has gone through. Europe has actually lost its innovative capability because of the way GDPR was defined. We want to be out of that. We have a huge innovation ecosystem in the country. We have more than 100 startups which are unicorns. We have 74,000 startups registered. We want our innovation system to flourish, not to get stymied by the data protection bill. That is the second thing. Third, the world has entered a digital era. Why should our implementation of law be still in the paper era?
Is there a pushback?
Absolutely not.
Not?
Absolutely not. It's a very progressive way, it's a very forward-looking bill, and I'm sure once you see the bill, you will really appreciate the thought process which has gone in it. Prime Minister has again and again said that nothing should be done without proper consultation. And we are following that process, we are consulting almost every stakeholder possible, and when the draft bill comes, that will again be uploaded for consultation. Basis the inputs from general public, anybody who wants to share something, we will take with a very open mind, very sincere effort, and make sure that the bill which finally goes to the parliament is a bill which is by the people, for the people, of the people.
Oh, that's fantastic. Mr. Minister, the cabinet approved some 10,000 crore rupees recently for the redevelopment of the Delhi, Mumbai, Ahmedabad railway stations that we saw recently. And we've been seeing these models which come sometimes on the internet of the futuristic, super futuristic railway stations. They're going viral. Will we be seeing a string of bullet trains next? Because we're talking about infrastructure to a great extent today. What's the vision there? What's the vision? What is your schedule, say, by 2026, 2027 on that?
Listen, again, railway is something very close to Prime Minister's heart. He is like he knows everything, almost everything about railways. When I go for meetings, that's the subject on which I prepare the most.
Really?
Yeah, because he knows. We cannot say that this is what is happening here, this is what is likely to happen. He'll ask you a question which is so much connected with the actual operations on the ground, on the platform, on the stations, that you'll be like, oh, I should have prepared more. So that is the kind of thing which we have a very tough boss. So,
what's the vision? What's the vision?
So the whole thing is...
See, can I simplify the question before you go into... I'll tell you where I'm coming from. All of us are associated with railways. We have our own memories, etc. in the future. Now, you have a troll brigade behind you. When there's an accident, they will troll it. You know what I'm talking about. This futuristic vision that you're presenting for this kind of 10,000 crore, 20,000 crore investment in railways, public-private partnership, is it for the Aam Aadmi? How does it benefit the Aam Aadmi's experience?
It is for the benefit of each and every person traveling by railways. It is for the benefit of each and every citizen of this country. See, what's the big picture here? I'll tell you, maybe again and again it's showing time.
Please don't look at that. I have in my entire life never looked at the clock when I'm anchoring. That's why when I started my career, Mr. Vaishnav, I started with a half-an-hour program. I'll tell you, then they said they couldn't discipline me. By 2006, I was given a 1-hour program. Then by 2010, I was given a 2-hour program. So don't worry about time, sir. Time is infinite.
I'm a bit...
No, I shouldn't tell you that as a minister, but don't worry.
Finicky about that.
No, but I want you to go into a little bit of detail because, I'm very excited about this. I remember from Guwahati, when I used to travel to Delhi by sleeper, we used to change trains. And, used to go get down at Barauni and change the trains. Now I want that vision of 400 Vande Bharat trains, which has been laid out in the budget. What's your timeline for that? I just want to know, I began with 5G. I want to end with railways because I want to look at physical infrastructure and IT infrastructure and then understand the sense of it. Please.
For me, time is very finite.
No, please. I know it is, but please.
I really wish I had
as much as you can.
3-4 hours in a day.
As much as you can.
More.
Please.
So the vision is very clear. First and foremost, passenger experience has to change. Without being an extra burden, without putting any extra burden on the passenger experience has to change. Difficult task, but achievable. Second, safety has to be paramount. Safety has to be paramount. Third, very clearly, we have to fundamentally change the technology that we have had for 50, 60 years. That technology has to totally change. These are the 3 basic things on the passenger side. There are things on the freight side. We can have another session on that. On the passenger side, first and foremost thing is the station. PM has given us a target of 200 stations. So we have by now created a master plan of about 139 stations. And each and every master plan is designed for future, designed for making sure that the growth of a city is actually accelerated by the station and not get hampered by the station. And believe you me, when the first 50 designs that our team, all of us, we took to the Prime Minister, he reviewed that entire thing for almost 2.5 hours, each and every station. After 2.5 hours, he was not happy. He didn't approve. He didn't say, Aage badho. He didn't say that. We came out of that room so disappointed. We were thinking that what has happened? We put in so much effort and still it has not got approved today. And in the night I get a call from PM. He says, आपने जो तैयारी की है वो आज के लिए अच्छी है, आगे से 50 साल के लिए सोच के वापस तैयारी करके लेके आओ, आगे के 50 साल के लिए सोच के लेके. It's a very different thought process. It took me a while to understand what is Prime Minister's thought process, how far he's thinking. We went back, we put everything in the shredder and took some of the best architects, some of the best town planners, some of the best designers. We took them, sat in long workshops. How do we plan for 50 years? It was a very difficult thing because where is the data? What kind of technology changes are going to happen? All those things we have to put in the system and then plan. We went back after 2.5 months of hard work and we got the approval from the boss.
This is a wonderful insight and it's a wonderful note to end on. But because this is the story of the day, and I will only wrap up by saying that we used to say, sir, that in the 1990s, China thought 20 years ahead, and it is remarkable and such an insight today that we have a Prime Minister and a government which is thinking 50 years ahead. We will outstrip China, and it's not mission superpower, it's a question of when we will be a superpower. You are heading fantastic 3 ministries, you're doing a lot of hard work. You have warmed up the entire day for us, and I'm very grateful to you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
really enjoyed
Vaishnav.
this.
Thank you.